allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would the clerk please do the roll call? Here.
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 We now have time for public comment. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have public comment?
I will
Go to the podium. Go to the podium then. All right, Brad.
My name is Brad Toft. I live at 7209 Laurel in Snoqualmie, Laurel Avenue, and I'm here as a citizen, but I serve on the city council. I wanted to just talk briefly about some of the development things that are in the works and share that with the hospital commissioners. And so as you're making decisions and plans, you have the benefit of that. So I've been having some of the conversations with parties involved in the proposed, or not yet proposed, Snoqualmie Hills development. Some of you may have heard of that. That's potentially 1,200 homes, which is kind of between in the land between Snoqualmie Ridge and the casino. And so there's lots of implications with that, but that stands to bring about 800 homes that would be age qualified, 55 and older, into the community. And so that project has actually been in the works for almost a decade. So developers and landowners working with the city to kind of put the pieces together to to see what would work, and the city would have to annex that land, so that's all private property that would be annexed. So that has yet to come before the council. It was brought before the council in at our retreat earlier this year, but an annexation plan and agreement has not been brought before the council, and probably will be later this year. So when the council deliberates over that, then they'll potentially take action for or against it. But one thing that needs to be clear, I mean, is whether the council approves that annexation or not, and whatever decision they make, there will be eventually development in that area. Those private property owners are interested in selling, and so if this project doesn't happen, there's one that will come in behind it and maybe have different makeup to it. And so as you're making those decisions, about what the hospital will do, and affiliations and all those kinds of things, I think it's worth considering Snoqualmie's future. That with 1,200 more homes, the city could easily go from a population of 13,000 to 17,000, or somewhere in that range. And so those are things that are worth keeping an eye on for the hospital district. Catherine's here as the new liaison, so she'll be a good resource in that way, liaison for the city council. But just wanted to share that with you and kind of pique your interest in it. So thanks.
Thanks, Brad. Could I ask you a question? Is that presently, what is that land in growth management with King County? Is that all in home development already, or?
It's within our boundary to annex it.
Okay.
And so that's not to say that there won't be some, you probably perhaps heard some of the PSRC and some of their concerns about growth and where that's happening in the cores and what happens out here. I think the city has to consider the potential conflict with PSRC in the future. If it takes on, that'll be a decision point that we look at as we deliberate over that annexation. But it is within the boundary, and we can do it. So it's what proposals we put before the PSRC later that they may look at. Okay. It may color that.
Okay. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Also?
I know that there's a hotel that's being proposed to be built on the ridge. How much of that will affect as well as the market for our hospital?
Yeah. So the hotel was approved. There was a mixed-use final plan that had to be amended, and so that was approved. I want to say at a meeting a month ago now. Yeah, and so that'll bring in a hotel. There'll be some retail in there. The hotel, I think, is about 90 rooms, and so the developer's business plan is that with a community like Snoqualmie Ridge, there's people who come visit from out of town. There may be small conferences there. They're going to have some small conference space. The Bowling Classic would be, would utilize that as well. And so, but my understanding is, that they can break ground on that fairly soon, and I think by mid-2018, mid to late 2018, that could open its doors. So it's not that far off.
Thank you, Brad.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yeah, we are past our 3 minutes, and I probably
I
started.
understand. However, if others are going to be able to ask questions, I'd like to be able to
you
ask
are.
questions
Yes.
too.
You may.
What
I'll be
if
quick.
some of the homeowners
My
in the
fault.
area don't agree to sell? Do you have the power of eminent domain to force them to give up their property?
So with an annexation, it's really in this situation, it's incumbent on the developer to reach agreements with those homeowners. So their eminent domain would not be used. The only time, it wouldn't be used in the annexation. There's eminent domain. An example is like when the high school, has its plan. For rebuilding the high school, they had to buy some houses, and they utilized eminent domain. In this case, the developer really has to go to those private property owners and make the offer sweet enough for them to be able to sell, and then the annexation can happen. So the city of Snoqualmie will not be utilizing that. So it's a good question. Yeah. Anything else?
No.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you,
Thank
Brad.
you.
Just want to know that I invited Mr. Toft to say comments about what's happening in our city. Because we're both living in the city, I wanted to know more of what's going on. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Scott Scowcroft, and I live in West Seattle. I'm concerned that the public hearing to give a status update on the affiliation RFP might not have much public participation. There's been virtually no investment involving the public to date, and if history is prologue, just posting an announcement or even a newspaper ad won't yield many results. Evan Pappas from the Valley Record is here tonight, I see. So maybe a newspaper ad might help. For what it's worth, I've started a citizen involvement website and Facebook page. It's called SV Hospital Forum, and I hope it will provide a place for members of the public to congregate, ask questions, and express their opinions, not only on the RFP process, but also on other topics as well. Its URL is bit.ly/SVH Forum, but if you forget that, all you need to do is search for SV Hospital Forum, and I believe that you'll see that it's the #1 result in Google search. So I hope you'll have an opportunity to visit the website and to follow and like the Facebook page. Also, I have another request, is because I'm videotaping these sessions and they'll be on the website, if you could be sure to use the microphone so that the audio can come through for the people who might want to watch these meetings. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to move on the agenda then. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
I second. Is there any changes or anything that we need? Any discussion? Hearing none, then we'll go ahead and vote. All those that approve the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and it passes. Okay, first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes We can do them together or separately. Is there a motion to do them together?
I make a motion to do them together for the sake of time.
I second.
Is there any discussion about these minutes or corrections? Hearing none, we'll go for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. No opposition. Communications. I'd like to communicate to the board that we're starting to get involved in our evaluation time. It's been almost a year since our CEO has been evaluated. So we are working, I've been working with Erin Castle in Human Resources to draft an evaluation tool. And it's going to be based on the job description that we have for the superintendent CEO. She will send the tool to all the commissioners and to the superintendent, to all the commissioners, and then you'll have an opportunity to give input on whether you like that tool or don't, and what changes you might want to have in it. And then I will work with her to finalize a tool that we can all use, and we're hoping that we will have approval of that in our June 8th board meeting. And she will send, then if we approve it, she'll send it to the commissioners and we'll do it, and then she'll calculate the information, give us the results, and then we will have an opportunity to talk to our CEO about the results, and if we need any plans for any change, then we can do that at that time. So that will be in the future. We're also working on a board self-evaluation. And we have one that's from Evergreen Health that may or may not be a beginning point for us. Erin is also taking care of that. She's also going to help, she's going to want your input on that as well as the one for the CEO. And then she will send out that evaluation tool. We'll complete the evaluation and send it to her, and then she will populate it and get it together, and we will then decide what we are going to do to evaluate ourselves, what kind of improvements we may or may not want to make. So those are in the future, just so that the board knows that we're working on those two issues. Any comments on that? Okay, then we will move on to our CEO, Superintendent Tom Parker's communication with the board. Do you have something?
I did have a question, and that is, I think the board should learn of any correspondence from the public that goes to you. If you could share that.
I haven't had any correspondence recently at all, so, but this is something that was going on that I thought the board should know about.
I understand. I just was under the impression you received some letters from the public. That's not true.
I think we all received some letters from the public, so I didn't, I think...
Is it our responsibility then to individually respond to the letter writer, or is there going to be a response from the board?
I did give a response to her. I don't know if anybody else did. I don't know whether anybody else did.
I did try to call her, and I left a message.
Okay.
I didn't get a copy of your response.
Oh, I will send it to you.
Thank you.
I will send it to you, Commissioner Pollard. I thought it went out to everybody.
I think you just respond to her. I think, yeah.
If you'd all like to know, I will make sure you get a copy. Thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you. Just a note that, and I sent an email to the commissioners a while back about Dr. Whitcupp's schedule. She is at the board meeting this evening for the Eastside Health Network, which is the clinically integrated network that we, Overlake and Evergreen, are a part of. And unfortunately, that conflict in schedule is for the foreseeable future, yet she will be with us as needed and as agenda items require. You have a copy of the report for the public. There are copies on the back table. I'll start with our affiliation strategy. Of course, on the agenda for tonight, work continues this evening with a focus on the market study report, the components of the RFP, and our upcoming public hearing. Meetings are now being scheduled with each of the commissioners to provide our consultants with input on the content of our RFP, and our goal is to have a final version of the RFP approved by the June 8th board meeting. Finances, hopefully I don't step on Commissioner Spiker's toes too much here, but the financial report will show that in March we had a net gain of $35,000 and an unrestricted cash balance at month end of $7 million. The cash balance was slightly down due to 3 pay periods in the month. The net income budgeted for March was $50,000, resulting in an unfavorable variance for the month of $15,000, but a favorable variance exists at the end of March of $152,000. Average daily census in March was 23.3 compared to a budget of 22. The occupancy rate for that is 93%. That's pretty high. Operating expenses were 3% below budget in March and are at 4% below budget year to date. I always try to give a little preview of the more recent month. April inpatient volumes were well under budget, 19.4. Parenthetically, I am working on some analysis to understand particularly the swing bed referral trend that affected volume for that month. ED volumes declined only slightly compared to March, down 16 visits. Not in the report, but I will say that we have grown, our census has come back now. We're at 24 today, expected to be at 25 tomorrow. But I'm trying to understand whether or not the lower census in April was a spring break effect that we see regularly, or if it was specific to one or a number of our usual other hospitals having a lower referral rate during that month. More to come on that. Trauma. The application to the Washington State Department of Health for the hospital to be designated as a trauma hospital has been submitted with a response expected by the end of this month. It is expected that this designation will result in a decline in the number of area residents going to or being taken by EMS to other hospitals for emergency and trauma services. As you know, we had a Department of Health survey in February and had submitted the plan of correction. That plan of correction has now been fully accepted by the DOH with no further reporting required. Update on the door-to-door campaign. After a few cancellations due to weather, we held our second campaign day on April 29th. 3 teams covered assigned zones on the Snoqualmie Ridge, covering 410 homes. Thus far, the campaign has delivered card packs, and you remember those card packs, you all got copies of those, to 1,050 homes. And as a reminder, those packs include information on our clinics, emergency services, outpatient rehab, and medical imaging, along with a voucher for a free meal in the cafe. The idea is get people here, get them in the door to see their community hospital. Just a note here on rehab in the community. On May 2nd, Umpqua Bank hosted the Aging Gracefully Town Meeting featuring speakers from the Mount Si Senior Center, the Snoqualmie Food Bank, Snoqualmie Valley Food Bank, and Snoqualmie Valley Hospital's rehab program, among others. Commissioner Pollard, I believe you attended that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Our director...
It was run by the manager of the
Umpqua Bank.
And I thought it was extremely well done. The turnout was about 60, which is pretty impressive.
Good turnout, yeah. Our director of rehab, Jim Scussel, spoke on physical safety, particularly safety in the home, and Susan Lord, one of our occupational therapy assistants, spoke on the home equipment loan program, the HELP program. Turning to a note from our facilities committee, King County Search and Rescue. Since our last meeting of the facilities committee, we have again been contacted by King County Search and Rescue, reiterating their interest in moving their vehicles to East Campus, along with a commitment to bear the cost of any site prep, such as regrading of the parking lot. A layout of their proposed plan for vehicle placement will be reviewed at the next facilities committee meeting. And of course, this is a significant use of district property, and so it will come to the board for your approval.
They were talking about them today on the news. In County Rescue, Search and Rescue. Yep.
This week is Healthcare Week. We are celebrating the service rendered by our dedicated and highly skilled staff. On Tuesday afternoon and evening, we hosted a gelato bar for our employees. This afternoon was the barbecue at the Ridge Clinic. Tonight is the barbecue for the night shift, and tomorrow at noon, the barbecue for the day shift staff. All commissioners are invited to attend tomorrow. And just a couple of notes here, upcoming dates. We typically don't forget Mother's Day, which is advisable, which is on Sunday. But Saturday is Armed Forces Day, and that's when we celebrate all those who are currently serving in all branches of the military. We pledged allegiance tonight. We have this meeting. We have our freedoms, and it's because of those who are protecting those freedoms, one of whom is someone we know well, Jay Rodney, who is actually in service as we speak. So we appreciate all those who are serving currently in our armed forces. And that is my report, and open to any questions from our commissioners.
Just one additional note, and that is this week is National Nursing Week.
It is. It is. National Nursing Week always now coincides with Healthcare Week. And the American Hospital Association brings those two together, so we actually celebrate both at the same time.
Does anybody else have a question? I have a question. How many free lunches have we given out? Do you know?
Free lunches for,
you said
yes,
okay.
Yes, free lunches. I know of one so far. Yes. So
is that yours?
Not mine. It was not mine. But we're hoping for more, and we're not dissuaded. We actually had, uniformly great response from the residents on the 29th. And in fact, my first doorstep, I could barely get off of it because it was somebody who's in the healthcare industry and just wanted to talk shop for a while, and it was very nice. But we had one person tell another team, "This is the best idea. Way to go, you guys." So it really has, those kinds of comments and being able to engage. And I tell you again, uniformly great response from people, lots of encouragement, and people are grateful for us getting out there. I actually had one guy who recognized me, and he said, "Wow, the C-suite is out working the neighborhood. That's awesome." So it was good.
Are there any other questions? So we will move on in the agenda. Committee reports now, and I believe Commissioner Spiker.
Thank you. Very
Finance
pleased
Committee.
about that, by the way, because 5 years ago I asked
I know you did.
to try and do something like that. We do not have a TV market here. We have a small field
Right.
market.
Yep.
So, and that's, in my opinion, the best way to meet people, tell them about what we have. Anyway, we had a great month, I thought, a little bit below what we predicted, but I'm looking at a lot of good things. I'm looking at our accounts receivable have been down to good levels for nearly, real great levels for 7 months and good levels for about a year. So that really helps with cash flow, and it shows on our balance sheet as far as what we have cash available. When we go up, we went from 2 years ago, we went from 2 million, a little bit more than 2 million cash available, to now it's over 7. And I believe that we'll be growing that somewhat in the future if we continue on track. I do know that the average daily census was up this month, so that we had a good month. I guess I am a little concerned if we don't get that census, what happens to the hospital balance sheet. On the other hand, we're doing great. We've got a good payer mix, great payer mix, thanks to the people that work at the hospital. And I know the 2 social workers that are really point persons that have driven the positive flow in the cash department for about the last 6 months. And thank you so much to them. I hope that you can convey that again. I say this almost every other month because it is their jobs are very important. And I think most of the commissioners know what I'm talking about. Our rehab is down, but it's going to go back up. And the reason is we had insurance issue where they were not going to pay, where they were not going to allow us to do our contract at such high rates. So we have adjusted that, and now we're back on track. I suspect that by the end of the year, we'll probably be pretty close to budget. That maybe a little bit below, but we'll be pretty close to budget on that. The clinics are a little bit down, but I think, again, we've got a plan on that. Every issue that we have on paper that I've looked at, we've got plans for. It's not like we're not doing anything. We are doing things. The clinic, we're thinking about getting a clinic manager, and there are 20 providers.
We're not thinking about, we're getting a clinic manager.
Okay. All right, we are going to get a clinic manager.
We're down to finalists.
And that's a $100,000 cost. However, that frees up Tim, Dr. Whitcock, to go ahead and start doing some internal medicine. And if you look at what she could bring in internal medicine versus managing a clinic, I think it's going to be quite a bit of difference. It's going to be a lot of there'll be a balance in the positive on that, I hope. And it'll also bring us into meeting new patients and perhaps getting more and new patients in that. Endoscopy's up, imaging is up. Emergency, I'm very pleased that we are nearly on track. But we had a stellar month in January, so we're probably back to a little bit below the last month or two. But as you recall, we had a tremendous month because of everybody having issues with the flu, and I expected to. No, I mean it was really serious.
It was.
And but this summer it'll probably pick up again. Everybody will be out there in their yards as soon as it gets warm, and things will start happening again. And that's just normal. So all that is good. We have, everybody has, I'm sure, has been able to look at the Finance Committee minutes. And I hope that, if there are any questions, I'm not going to go through it. I never do, because it's very intricate, and I could sit here and go line by line, but you all can read pretty good, so I'm sure. I just wanted to outline highlight some of the things I kind of keep my eyes on, so that we can prevent serious issues down the line, or prevent any problems down the line, or try to repair some things that we're working on. So, any questions at this time? I know Commissioner Pollard probably has one.
Yeah, well, it says here under miscellaneous, for next finance meeting, you've asked for a report showing amount paid to consultants for affiliation. The report will be produced monthly by staff. Will that come to the board?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to get as much information before the board as possible, so that we have we're doing due diligence, is what we're trying to do, so.
My other question is under total liabilities on page 2 of your consolidated balance sheet. It looks like our total liabilities went down from 105,869,551, etc., to 104 million, which means we've made an improvement of about $100,000. Is that what we can expect?
I think that'll be continued. Yeah, that'll be continuing. We'll probably even be doing better than that in the future. And not only that, but if our process for affiliation works out the way I feel it will, we will be really denting our debt.
Let's hope so. But I guess my concern is, when someone looks at our total indebtedness of $105 million, that's pretty impressive.
Well, yeah, and we sure did break a lot of eggs to make the omelet, I know, but I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of omelets to eat, and they're going to be delicious, so come on by. Take your vouchers and bring them by. So I'm being, light and humor here, but I really do think that there is some light here at the end of the tunnel. Yes. And I've kept a really close eye at every meeting for the last 5 years. I know I've been pretty on hands with the finance meeting since I became treasurer. And things are looking better. Our staff are working with us to help the situation. I'm not going to say what happened in the past. I'm just saying they're helping us now to do the things that we asked them to do, and that we're a team, and that's what matters. And I think that's going to help in our affiliation process too, because we're only going to, I think, on books and paper, we're only going to get better. So.
And I'd like to reiterate that. I think David's right, that the team, it's more of a team effort. We all have the same goals, the same ideas. And I don't think any one of us would do a better job than David is on that committee. And he knows the details, he knows what's going on. I listen to him whenever we have our meetings, and he's thorough. And he and the staff and the committee, including me, we all have to work together. But I think, I don't think there's anybody on that committee that isn't taking it seriously.
It seems like there always is an offered solution for the issues that I bring up, and I bring up issues.
That wasn't the case before.
And sometimes we don't get the right solution right away, but we continue and we keep working on it, and that's all you can do.
Are there any other questions for Commissioner Pollard? I'm sorry, for Commissioner Spikers. I'm looking at Jean.
Thank you.
I've got one.
David, you can ask me all the questions you want.
Yeah,
Any other, if there's not,
then
do you have warrants?
No, I will do the warrants
Yes.
at this time,
Okay.
if there are no other questions. And I encourage any of the people that are in this room in the public meeting to go ahead and ask me questions if they need to later in the meeting. So, the other thing is there are warrants. We had a 3 payroll month, so yes, our cash went down. Our payrolls can be quite substantial. I mean, over $1 million in payroll warrants usually every month. So we're at 3.321. $3,321,611.10. And this happens twice a year. I believe that the next time that will happen is in either August. So it's just the way it is. There's so many days, and the days vary each month. Some are 28, one's 28 or 29, and there are several at 30 or 31. So it's just 5 years. So I'd ask at this time that the payroll warrants for the month of March be authorized and approved by the board.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I oppose.
It passes with 4 ayes and 1 no. Next on the agenda is Medical Committee, and I believe Commissioner Young.
All righty. First, district-wide, we are providing first aid services at Snoqualmie, July 4th, daytime Ridge, HOA, and nighttime red, white, and boom activities. Hope you all attend so you can see what it's about. And if you get hurt, we'll be there. All right. The Trauma Level 5 application update, it's submitted. The response is anticipated within 30 days. And I'm just going to give you kind of a layman's point of this. Trauma designation means that if a person is injured and it's within a trauma protocol, which all of the people who the fire departments, etc., know, they must be taken to a trauma-designated hospital. They can't just be taken somewhere. So that's a good thing because it will increase probably our services with that designation. In the lab, we're getting molecular testing units, crafting pro formas based on a 2016 volume for 2 finalists. These are tests that currently are being sent out, which is an additional cost. The imaging department, we now have a radiologist
had for 2 months that comes in on site to be more involved with the radiation safety program. And a new certification process has been introduced by the state to have CT programs surveyed uniquely instead of mixed in with all the other imaging. 2017 is an induction year, and David talked about director recruitment. There have been 4 excellent candidates after phone interviews of 8 in-person interviews being scheduled. Director will oversee operations of all our clinic services, including the Ridge, Hospital Clinic, University House, Snoqualmie Valley Elder Care, Red Oak, Regency, and North Bend. And the medical staff, Medical Executive Committee recommendations for credentialing reviewed and discussed. Medical Committee of the Board's recommendations to full board for approval all is added to the Medical Executive Committee's recommendation. We reviewed in detail the medical staff credentialing process and defined and identified it as a highly appropriate topic to present to the entire board at a future work study session. And also benefits of a participation in the clinically integrated network were reviewed and discussed and also identified as a valuable topic for full board engagement and work study session. Any board members have questions? Yes, Gene?
I just like to point out that I don't recall your having mentioned in your report the excellent program that we have for stroke support, which is the third Thursday of each month, 3:15 to 4:30 here at the hospital. It's a very positive thing for the community, and we want to give that as much public attention as we can get, because the attendance varies. Last month it was down. Prior to that, we had maybe 15. It's an excellent program. It's handled very well by our rehab department. Or maybe Tom wants to add something to that.
No, you've done a nice job. It is a great support group, and I'll just comment. And thank you, Commissioner Pollard, for adding that. There's so much going on. We often, we're picking and choosing what we bring to medical committee. But yes, that's a great group.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. I think you misspoke. We're not going to increase services. We're going to increase customers, patients. And that's through the trauma level 5. And that is a big, big step to being continued in the positive. And the reason I just kind of part this out is if there is a 10 or 20% or maybe 30% increase in our ER, the ancillary services provided with the ER will definitely help matters quite a bit.
Yep.
So I'm really counting on a hopeful eye. I guess I'm going to have a hopeful eye with respect to what we're going to end up. Do you have any idea? We probably don't have any idea. But
it's hard to predict. And the reason is there has not been any opening of new hospitals to the trauma program for just over 10 years. So it's hard to find a benchmark out there about the impact of coming into the trauma system. That said, we do know that the partners that we're working with, and we've been very supported in this process with Eastside Fire and Rescue, Snoqualmie Fire, Snoqualmie Pass Fire, Medic One, Overlake. Everybody's been very helpful, and they have uniformly said, just be ready. Just be ready to be.
I think they told her that.
To be busy.
well, I'm ready. To see the results.
Well, but we've taken that seriously by making sure that our staffing plans are ready to flex up as needed,
as well as potentially adjusting our swing bed acute bed ratio.
Well, we always make room for acutes.
Yeah. So, and as you know, acute care is vital to any hospital to have that sustainable. So I just want to point that out, just make sure that that's the main thing about the trauma 5. But I'm very hopeful for.
Actually, in the social work department, during our medical committee, they will be introducing new education programs for admitted agents. And the first topic will be understanding your medical benefits. We will talk more about that as well. So just want to
Action
share that
item
with you.
for medical committee?
Madam President, can I make a comment
You may.
on Joan? Nice report, by the way, and
Yes,
thank
you did.
and
Good
thank you. I just wanted to add that in the report regarding the imaging department and the radiologist who is working with us, this is not a contracted radiologist per se, in that we didn't bring somebody in for this. This is part of the reading service that we have with Radia. As you may recall, and you see through the MedExec and the credentialing reports, we credential a lot of radiologists because we work with a company called Radia, and they do all the professional reads for all of our imaging exams. Radia's medical director takes particular interest in radiation safety with all of their clients, and he is the one who has been coming in and doing an excellent job working with Ron Bennett to make sure that we are tracking our doses and we are low dosing as much as possible.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move that we approve the Medical Executive Committee's report for re-credentialing the providers that we discussed at our board meeting, our medical executive meeting.
I make a motion.
I made the motion.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Can you at least read the names for us, Joan? Or do we just
May
go-
I'm just going to comment on that. The report is here, and the medical committee has been reviewing this in depth and wanted to try to make it a faster process for the board. So it comes out in the board packet. You can read the names, but they're trying to do this work for you.
It's also on the table for the public.
Yes, it is.
Always is.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Then I think we had a first and we second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Everybody said aye. Facilities Committee, Commissioner Pollard, would you like to share?
Yes, we're running about 15 minutes late according to the suggested time, and we want to get to our discussion about market affiliations and so forth with our consultants. So I'm going to abbreviate this. Again, the report is on the table. It's 2 pages long, goes into quite a bit of detail. I'll just hit a couple of highlights. One is we're focused on a spring beautification plan. As you may have noticed, the roundabout as you approach the hospital has been reworked, and what was cleverly done by our staff was to go and get plants from the East Campus property, rhododendrons and azaleas, and plant them around the hospital. So that was a low-cost operation. If you'll notice also when you come in the main entrance of the hospital, you'll see large planter boxes, flower pots it says here, but they're large planter boxes, and those are being developed there. It's going to be very attractive. The concept is that if we're going to invite potential partners to come and see and visit our hospital, the first impression means a lot. So we want to have the hospital look as good as possible. In that regard, as you turn on to the 99th to come to the hospital, that corner right there looks very scruffy, but we're working on that because what we've done is Tom has talked with the city and been given assurance that we could use labor from the Department of Corrections to develop that into something more attractive, and that will be part of the discussion with the property owners. That's not our property. Tom will, that is, our superintendent will be making contact with the property owners and discuss that. So I think that will be attractive soon. I thought the highlight of our meeting was that we brought in the facilities techs to meet us, because whenever we would praise Scott Nohavik for an excellent job that he was doing as facilities manager, he'd always say, well, it's not me, it's my team. It's my team, and so on. So we said, okay, bring your team in here. We want to thank them. So he did. And we had an opportunity to meet them individually. And I think that Tom bought them breakfast afterwards. Scott did. I'm sorry, Scott did. That's right. Tom wouldn't, but Scott would. I'm sorry. Okay. But anyhow, Scott's a champ of a fellow and an excellent supervisor. Yep. And if you look around the hospital and you are impressed by the high level of maintenance that's going on here, I can't think of anybody more responsible for that than Scott Nohavik, and also Steve Daniel, who supervises here. So that's really excellent. Okay, let's see. Now, one interesting and shocking thing that happened this month was that on April 22nd, a Douglas fir tree out here at the corner of the parking area for the emergency room, it snapped off. It fell into our parking lot. It's from an adjacent property, not our property. It broke off and fell into our parking lot, a big part of a tree. The lucky part was it fell between two cars. So our staff went out there and cleaned it up, and so they got a lot of exercise in cleaning up a tree. But other than that, no damage, and I think that's we're very lucky. But there is another tree out there that's threatening, and we're going to look and see if we can do some preventative work there. The other thing that's on the table there is community uses of the hospital meeting rooms. Now, we have pursued this concept that was suggested actually by the head of the Department of Health in the state of Washington, and that is make your hospital a community gathering place. So that's what we've tried to do by making available to community groups our meeting rooms. And I'm not going to list them all, but there are 11 here. And if I think you'd be impressed by the kinds of groups that are coming here to meet in our hospital. And this is wonderful in terms of outreach to the community, and I'm very proud of that. But I won't take any more time because now we're 20 minutes beyond our suggested time. And we all do want to hear from the consultants. So thank you very much. If there are questions, however, I will, David might come up.
I just have a comment with respect to that tree. I think we need to shoot off a letter explaining the dangerous condition that exists on their property, so that if they have knowledge of it, it might end up being their fault.
It's been done. It's been done. And they have a arborist coming out to take a look.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I'd like to comment, Commissioner Pollard. I really like this list of community uses. That's helpful to see. Thank you.
Yes, I hope members of the public will pick that up and look at it. It's very impressive.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Commissioner Pollard? Hearing none, we will move on to old business. Is there any old business that needs to be addressed? Hearing none, then we will go on to new business. Make sure. Affiliation. I think that would be Sarah.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Cave of Sarah Hebner Advisory. My partner is Hebner Advisory. Quickly, just want to share with you how we're intending to spend the next hour or so with you. The first block of time is going to be to review the market assessment, and I'm going to try to do that by section and then pause for questions at the end of each section. Hopefully you'll have lots of them and I'll be able to answer all of them. And then the next piece is going to be to walk through an outline of the RFP. We have actually begun drafting portions of it, but what we wanted to bring to you tonight is just the outline, because we have a lot more work that we want to do with the administrative team and with each of you individually to make sure that your questions are answered, that you have the opportunity to provide input. And then we will be coming back, as Tom mentioned, at the June meeting for approval of the RFP. And then the last segment of the time will be to talk about the upcoming public hearing and sort of what we have intended for that, and see how that fits with what your thoughts were there. And then we will just land on walking through the timeline. We've actually added one more touch point that we hadn't conceived of using last time, but we think would be a good thing to kind of keep our momentum going here. So that's what we're planning to do. And if you want to pull up the market assessment, we can get started on that. Okay.
Are there additional copies of this on the back, if the public needs them, or are they just the board members have them? There are copies, so if anybody needs a copy, they're on that back table.
Okay, great.
Is it possible to dim just those front lights to make the slides? Good idea.
So maybe what I'll just do is provide 30 seconds of context here while we're getting the lights dimmed. So the reason for embarking on a market assessment as part of this process is for us to have a really good handle on your market, on your current volumes, on the volumes that are currently going elsewhere, and to understand and be able to hopefully translate both in the narrative and even to quantify what some of the opportunity might be for potential affiliate partners. So that's really kind of how this fits and why it was important to do. So with that little bit of context, we'll just go into a little bit of background here. So Steve and I actually commissioned this report directly from a group called Health Facilities Planning and Development. The principal of that firm is Jody Corona, who is very well known, certainly around Washington State, but really in the whole region, as being one of the experts in this whole arena of healthcare market analysis and also certificate of need. So she's really outstanding. I've had the pleasure of working with her many times over the years as I was working in primarily in Peace Health, but also at Providence. So we worked directly with her on this report, and the market assessment included the following components here. First, an understanding of the population trends, really understanding what the demographic profile is out here, what the growth forecast looks like, and a profile of Snoqualmie Valley Hospital's current services and utilization. Next, really looking at the service area and what the future inpatient and swing bed volume projections look like, as well as the future outpatient volumes. Taking a look at Snoqualmie Valley Hospital's market share, but also really importantly, out-migration to other hospitals. Where is that out-migration going currently? And what does that mean in terms of what opportunity might be for those organizations? Identification of competitors and their estimated market shares, and then a little bit of additional information on post-acute opportunities. So just a few of the key takeaways, and we'll come back at the end and really talk about a couple of these again, but more from the context of what's important for a potential affiliate partner. But in terms of just upfront, the sort of a summary, executive summary of the report itself, the first aha is that this is a high growth market. You all know that. It's also a little bit younger demographic than the rest of the county. But actually the 65 plus is the fastest growing segment of the population. But still, very high growth and a really good demographic. The second aha in looking at this data is that the opening of Swedish Issaquah had a fairly significant impact. There were a lot of market shifts that came as a result of that hospital opening in 2011. And that impacted not only your hospital, but others on the east side, and we'll go into that a little bit more in depth. But the net here is that 53% of the volume, the inpatient acute volume, so people living in your district going to Swedish for care, 53%. Okay, so that's a pretty significant number there. And we can talk a little bit more kind of how that impacted others. The other piece here, which I alluded to at the work study session last month, is that the market share for Snoqualmie Valley Hospital is quite low. And you might think, well, that's kind of a bummer. Well, the reality is, it is a bummer, but what that spells is a lot of opportunity. And as we get into the details of what people from this district are utilizing in terms of services, we think there's a very good case to be made for being able to recapture a fair amount of that market share here locally, and then expand out the capabilities to whoever that affiliate partner might be. As Commissioner Spikers pointed out, you have a very good payer mix here, and that translates into a strong commercial payer mix relative to King County, and I'll show you a little bit of that data. And then, as I mentioned, there is kind of a growing opportunity on the post-acute and long-term care side of the spectrum. All right, so let's get into the service area definition for a moment. So what I want to say first is that the term primary service area, for those of us who do these kinds of analysis and who live in this world, is actually a technical term with a definition. And the definition is the zip codes from which you derive 75% of your inpatient acute business. Okay? And so your primary service area is actually, when you apply that definition, are these zip codes here for North Bend, Snoqualmie, and Falls City. Now, that does not mean that Snoqualmie Valley Hospital is not accountable for providing services to your entire district and defining your service area more broadly for practical purposes. It just means that currently, as you look at where the volumes are coming from, they're not actually coming from Carnation and Preston, which make up the rest of your district. You can see very, very little inpatient acute volume here, which is why the market share for those two areas is considerably lower. Okay, So that's sort of the technical definition of the service area. And again, I'm going to give you, for most of the information that I'm going to walk through tonight, I'm going to give you both the primary service area, which you're going to see abbreviated as PSA, and then the district as a whole. So this is a map of your service area, which you're all very familiar with, so probably don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but this just kind of graphically depicts what was on that last slide. All right, so one of the things that we talked about on the key takeaway slide was just kind of the incredible growth that you're in your population. Well, that has actually netted out to quite a bit of growth in a number of different services that Snoqualmie Valley Hospital offers. And most notably, I'm going to just point out emergency department visits from 2014 to 2016, 36% increase. The next one, I actually sadly need to point out an error that was supposed to be corrected that I didn't catch, wasn't corrected. So if you look down here at outpatient, these two lines here should be added together. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one there. Yeah, these two here, okay, should be added together as they are up above for the later years. That should have been happening here as well. So this is not a 232% increase, however, it is an 11.6% increase, which is still pretty significant. And then if you look at some of the line items here that represent your imaging, so X-ray, MRI, those are also have grown considerably during this time frame. And I was doing cartwheels in my seat over here when you shared the news about having applied for the trauma designation, because you absolutely should see a pretty significant uptick from that. So, all right, so I promised I would pause at the end of each section for any questions. So, questions so far? Ready for me to keep moving along? Yeah?
I wasn't sure about, I didn't quite get this service area map, or the purple, this one right here.
The table.
The table,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand what was actually service area, primary service area.
Okay, so the primary service area are these three zip codes here.
Okay.
And
so
that's
just where most of the numbers are coming from.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when you add up the 53.5%, the 15.9%, and the 7.1%, it actually gets you to 77%. But if you don't add that third zip code, you don't get to your magic number of 75%. And that's what defines a primary service area in technical terms.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, that works. Thanks.
There's been a criticism from the public regarding primary service area, and one of which, of course, is the district declination and the Preston. How do we balance that so that the primary services are delivered into this area as well?
So, I mean, I guess I'm not the superintendent, so I can't answer that fully, but what I will say is that, you know, as a district hospital, your obligation and responsibility is to provide services to the entire district.
I would like to comment on that because I did see that concern expressed. It was a concern expressed in as much as the person believed that we had identified, preemptively identified certain areas within the district as primary versus not. That we had said, these zip codes are make up our primary service area, i.e. the ones that we care about. As you've heard tonight, that's the furthest thing from the truth. The truth is that primary service area is not a predetermined designation or categorization. Primary service area is a way that market researchers take a look at your current volume. And as Sarah said, once you take all the zip codes and you order them by the most volume to the least, and then you start adding them up. And once you get to 75% of your market share, you say, okay, that's the primary service area. That's where most of your volume is coming from. So it's a function of your current volume, not a function of a predetermined marketing approach or a desire to serve a certain area more than another.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. Most of those criticisms that are coming from the public, my wish and my hope are those people that have those issues, I would like to see them come and really be educated in what's going on rather than, always assuming things. So anyway, thank you. That's my comment.
Sure. Hopefully they'll watch one of these amazing videos.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
Mr. Pollard.
think it's also useful to point out that these are by zip code, not by city limits. When we say North Bend, we're not talking only about inside the city of North Bend. We're talking about everybody who uses the North Bend zip code, which includes lots of unincorporated King County. And that applies also to the other categories. But my question would be, it's obvious that we're going to get most of our people from the higher population areas, but I'd like to know the percentage of people that are coming from those priority 2 areas compared with the percentage coming from the other areas, because just because they have more population, they're going to have more people, but how good are we at convincing those in the secondary area to come here? And when perhaps measure that by the percentage of those in those areas that come here.
So the percentages really are what you see in this column. So the practical reality is that you do have a smaller percentage. You have a smaller market share, got a 0.2% market share from Carnation. So for whatever reason, there's a slightly larger percentage of folks living in the zip code for Carnation that are choosing either because they're being directed by their physician, or they're making the choice themselves, or their insurance companies directing them elsewhere for hospital acute inpatient services. So remember, we're not looking at outpatient here. So there is a delta, there's a bit of a delta, but the practical reality is that even from the higher population zip codes, you're only getting 2%, which is not a stunning market share percentage. I mean, even for a hospital this size, I think, you are situated kind of unusually close to a lot of larger tertiary medical centers, but we believe, and we haven't sat down to kind of talk about what we think we might model for purposes of the RFP, but we are going to try to estimate what growth potential there would be in that.
If I could add one more thought, and that is that when the district went in for its certificate of need with the Department of Health, we pointed to our rural areas as underserved areas, and I think that was perhaps one of the reasons that we got a certificate of need. So I think we always have to bear in mind, and the letter that we got also tries to make that point, that everybody pays taxes, and no one should feel like a second-class citizen with respect to services from the hospital. And the difficulty is explaining that this is a measure of participation as opposed to a measure of quality and so forth. So there's a little problem there that we may need to better communicate with the public about.
Good. Well, I'm glad you've just kind of wrapped your arms around it, because the word participation is a perfect way to think about it. All right. Ready to move on to the next section?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You already know a lot about this. So in the primary service area, high growth, about 14.5% since 2010. By 2026, expecting another 21% growth. So really substantive there. I think higher, I can't remember exactly what the city councilman said in his comments, but this is pretty high. As I mentioned, a younger population, but the 65 plus is the fastest growing proportion of your population. When you look at the district, it actually looks a lot like the primary service area, growing, younger, but also aging. Okay. So in terms of hospital utilization trends, so this is a little bit tricky to think about, but what this shows is that for residents of the primary service area who were hospitalized in any Washington hospital, the average daily census is 25.7 currently, 33.1 for the district. Okay, so this is basically how many beds are they filling daily somewhere, not here, but somewhere. And then the subtext here, if you think that number seems maybe a little bit low given the population, is that the use rates are considerably lower than King County use rates, and that is by and large because you have a younger population. The higher utilizers tend to be the 65 plus. Okay, second point here is that is just kind of translating this to patient days. So again, from the primary service area, approximately between 2014 and 2016, approximately 2,200 residents were hospitalized, generating 9,400 patient days. During the same period for the district, the numbers are 2,800 hospitalizations, generating 12,100 patient days. Again, we're still on inpatient acute care here. And as I mentioned, the 3-year market share for Snoqualmie Valley Hospital for the primary service area, 2%, and for the district overall, 1.7%. So that means everyone else is going someplace else, and I'm going to show you where they're going in a moment. So this is really cool. So these are the most common reasons for residents of your service area to be hospitalized. And the most common reasons are for general medicine, obstetrics, and orthopedics. So the reason I say this is really cool is because this is all stuff you can do here. You're not currently doing all of it, but you can do it. And there isn't any reason why this wouldn't be a significant opportunity for an affiliate partner to consider some of these things. So again, you can see for all the other things, you know, the kind of the close fourth is general surgery, which is also, you know, pretty significant potential opportunity there. But in terms of the most common reasons, these are sort of bread and butter, if you will, in terms of hospital services and things that could be done. And some of them, as I mentioned, already are. Okay, so this is your payer mix relative to King County. King County is on the left here, and the primary service area is on the right. And what I want you to look at the most here is the commercial, the size of this slice of the pie here. So this is the commercially insured patients, and there are 11% more in your primary service area than there are when you look at all of King County. So a very favorable payer mix here. And then in terms of the Medicaid slice of the pie, a little bit lower, but of course with, and then looking at Medicare, of course you get some favorable reimbursement actually from both of those sources. So those are a little bit less pertinent here, but in terms of how attractive you are to an outside party, I would focus on the commercial. All right, so here's the impact of Swedish Issaquah. I'm going to need to get my readers. There we go. So basically, as I mentioned previously, the opening of Swedish had a pretty significant impact on market share, not only for Snoqualmie Valley Hospital, but also for others, in particular Overlake. Overlake also lost about 50% of its market share. The net result is that about 53% of the market share from your service area is collectively going to either Swedish Issaquah or Swedish First Hill. So that's kind of how it all pencils out. Just to kind of highlight the line items here. So this is you up top, and you can see you went from a market share high of about 6.8 down to, in 2016, we were between 2 and 1.5%. And then here's Overlake, and you can see they had a pretty significant downturn as well. I think the difference with them is they've managed to hold a little bit more steady, but still pretty big market shift there. All right, so these are the recipients of your out-migration. So in other words, residents of your service area who are going elsewhere, where are they going? They're going to Swedish Issaquah, they're going to Overlake, they're going to Swedish First Hill, and they're going to Seattle Children's. Those four together collectively get about 75% of your market share. The rest are shared by a variety of other players. But you can kind of see this all played out here. If you add up these percentages here, Children's, Overlake, Swedish Issaquah, you get up to that big number. So again, what this says is there are a lot of these organizations who could stand to lose a fair amount. Were they not interested in stepping up and considering an opportunity like this? And if the opportunity goes to another organization, that means something to them. And so that's really kind of the key message point here. All right, now I'm going to go to the outpatient side. And on the outpatient side, the data is a little bit older, unfortunately, and the reason is that inpatient data, hospitals in Washington State are required to submit on a regular basis inpatient data. So for a long time, there has been a pretty slick database that's available publicly that allows you to look at those inpatient market share numbers. The same has not been true on the outpatient side. And so up until recently, organizations like Health Facilities Planning and Development, which helped us with this market assessment, have had to comb through Medicare claims data to try to get a sense of what the outpatient market looks like. And now there are some new sources of information, but they are a little bit dated. So hopefully at some point before too long, this data will be easier to come by. Nonetheless, on the outpatient side, the services in both the primary service area and the district that were most heavily utilized are lab, PT, and imaging. And Snoqualmie Valley Hospital's highest market shares are in ED, imaging, office-based procedures, and OT. So I will just quickly point those out once I get my glasses back on. Okay. So the first three that are highlighted here are the kind of the top, the largest volume outpatient services, the lab, the PT, and just kind of basic x-ray procedures. But in terms of where you're really strong, the office-based outpatient procedures here, 9.7% market share. Oh, did I get those transcribed? That was ultrasound. The office-based procedures is 18.6%. To be honest, it might be better for you to look at your hard copy than up here. It's a little bit more difficult to read up there. For emergency department, 57% market share. So still a lot of opportunity, but much higher market share there. And then for MRIs, 11.6%. So this is a little bit of a snapshot of what the outpatient market looks like, both in terms of the services that your residents are utilizing, but also kind of what your share of those services is, or was as of 2014.
I've got a question. Noticing some things here that I feel are almost dramatically surprising.
Okay.
One, I didn't realize we actually 80% of the people from the of our patients are from the district. I always thought it was a lot lower than that. That's not a bad thing. I just very surprising. And then when looking at the estimated,
yeah, can you reference where you're?
80%. Yeah,
80% of the patients that we serve are from the district area.
In which service area?
Everything that's according to what these results are.
Which side are you?
Yeah.
Referring to?
No, way back. District total for inpatient. Inpatient acute non-swing bed.
Oh,
Is this the slide you're referring to here?
Yeah.
Okay.
page 4.
So.
Yeah.
So what this is showing, that 80% you're looking at for district total.
Yeah.
That just means that for our business, meaning our inpatient acute business, well, it's what you said. It is, but this is again inpatient acute. It's not swing,
Yeah.
and it's not outpatient. It's just that very low number of inpatient acutes. And to remind everybody, where do our inpatient acutes come from? Almost exclusively, they come as a result of somebody coming to the ER who is then admitted to the floor. Right.
So surprisingly high.
Well, it's
Is that-
interesting.
was that-
It is interesting because at 80%, that is a lot higher than. Well, I take it back. I'm mixing bad numbers. I was going to talk about the market, our ED market share being at 57%, but you can't.
Well, that was the next
can't-
question I actually had, about the 57%. That seems misleading.
And which 57%? Oh, the AD,
According to the true
the outpatient,
data,
right,
2014,
right.
and it says, where do they get this data from? I mean, is it?
So it's basically the same sources, it's just that there's an organization that's gathering it more routinely and combing through it in a more precise way. And it's not perfect. I mean, I will say the inpatient data is probably not perfect either, but it's mandatory reported data. So this is, as of 2014, the total ED business from this area. So
Well, it just
seems too high.
Then you go back to this slide, page number 6.
Number 6.
And we're up 36% on ER visits.
Yeah.
So we might be at 70%, that doesn't seem correct. 60, 70% of the market share for ER right now in 2016?
That's a percentage change number, not a market.
No, I understand.
Yeah,
I understand.
he's questioning it,
But if we've increased 36%,
right.
and 1,000 people more per year, basically.
Then you're kind of you're doing a
this
back of
does-
the napkin to see what that would be.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
just does not
Yeah.
make sense.
Seems too high for the outpatient. Is that what you're saying? Seems too high.
Way
Okay.
too high. I would like to have more
Okay.
information about, because if it's that high, I mean, we should be like doing 500 people a month here. That's got to be wrong. It's got to be wrong.
Okay.
So I question that figure. I mean, we should be even higher percentage of the market, according to, if we've increased 36% and the population has only increased 10%,
That's what I was
or
gonna
5 or
ask.
10%, this has got to be totally wrong.
So, Steve, did you want to make the comment?
The first slide that shows 36%,
Yeah,
it's actually as of 2016.
right, exactly. That's my point.
Right.
That's my point, that we
Starting-
should be even
starting with-
higher at 57%.
What you're saying, David, is this data showing 57% of the market in 2014, then you add a 36% increase since then.
Yeah. We should be at 70%?
So let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's go back and question that number and see it with a little more digging whether anything changes. I think though that it's important to remember that ED, I mean, one of the things you have that you offer this community is an ED that is local, it's close to people's homes, and that is a pretty common thing that you would see a much, much smaller proportion of inpatient business in a critical access hospital than you would ED visits. That would be one of the highest utilized services. So
No doubt.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. I just
it's not
think that there's something wrong
penciling
with this
with.
figure.
Okay, we'll take it
So
back.
I would like to get some kind of
Yep,
verification.
absolutely.
I think that's a
Okay.
very important point, because what we're trying to understand is what's the upside here.
Yeah, that's what I want. If we're doing 57 or 70% now, there's not much upside, right? But if we're at 30% or 20% ER, market
upside.
share, there's a huge upside for perhaps an affiliation.
Okay.
That's my point.
Right,
Yep.
right.
So I want to make it positive. If it is, I would like to verify so.
Commissioner
That's my
Pollard,
point.
did you also
Fair
have a
enough.
question?
Yeah, my understanding was we were going to let her go through the different sections and ask questions at the end of each section. I do have a question about page 4, since it was referred to, and the 80% was rather impressive about patient origin. But when you look over to the right, it says Snoqualmie inpatient market share with that 80% is only 1.7%. That's an exceedingly low market share.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And so let's not get too impressed with the 80% is what I'm trying to say. Let's look at that 1.7 and see what if there are opportunities and potentials there.
Absolutely. That's, I think that, starting to quantify that or help create a story around that is where we need to focus.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Pollard. Is there any other questions before we move on? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Let's actually just skip over that. So so I'm assuming then we've got all the questions on this last section, or is that not a safe assumption?
I think so. I'll ask one more time. Is there any other questions before we move on?
I just want to clarify a definition of office-based outpatient procedures. Would that be in our clinic or in our hospital? Or what does that mean, office-based?
Office-based outpatient procedures would be in a clinic setting.
In other words, if you went with a cut and they stitched it up in the clinic.
So it could be either in the hospital or in our clinic.
Well, it could be in your hospital-based clinic or your other clinic.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, Sarah.
All right. Okay. So there's only one slide in this section, and that is a little bit of a look at the post-acute market. So now we're back on CHARS data again, a much more reliable, long-standing data source here. So from 2014 to 2016, 21% of all discharges of primary service area residents had a disposition other than home or expired. And home health and skilled nursing were the largest dispositions. So this is just, we talked a little bit last time about, who should receive this RFP. Is just kind of thinking about organizations that may see this as a particular opportunity as well. Yes.
I just have one statement. Having, been a home health nurse, home health and hospice nurse, this is intermittent care. It is not continuous care in the home.
Okay.
So, that's it.
Intermittent or intermediate?
Intermittent.
Intermittent.
Oh, intermittent.
Not every day, not all day.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or all night.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. So let's look at some market volume projections for 2026. So we're going to assume for a moment that use rates remain relatively flat. And with that, the projection is that the average daily census of primary service area residents hospitalized will jump to 36. If you recall, the current is 25.7, so that's an increase of more than 10 patients per day. This is the total opportunity, not necessarily what's happening here. And for the district, that number is 41 in 2026. That's a projection. And if you recall before, the current is 33.1. In terms of taking a look at additional nursing home beds, by 2026, it's projected that the primary service area will need an additional 120 nursing home beds. And so this is a pretty significant growth opportunity on both the inpatient acute side and the post-acute side. In terms of what's projected to happen for demand for outpatient services, in 2026, the projection is that office visits will grow to 161,000, and that's from 128,000. So from 128,000 to 161,000. And then significant growth also in ED visits and surgeries. This is outpatient surgeries. Now, you don't have surgical capacity here currently.
But we have room to grow.
You have room to grow. And this would, particularly if your ED volume grows as a result of your, some of the things you're doing, and also the level 5, assuming you get that.
Can I ask a question or make a comment?
Yeah.
When we look at this area, and several years ago they did an estimate about the freeway, and the interchange, 18990 interchange, wasn't scheduled to be redone until 2040. And right now, they're looking at doing it much, much quicker, which means the area is growing faster than they anticipated in 2013, 14. I'm trying to think when that document came out. But it's going much, much faster than what they thought, which means that would impact us greater. And I don't know how quick you're thinking this is going to happen, but it could happen quicker than what these numbers are saying.
Yeah.
Especially when we just heard Brad talk. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brad was talking about new development.
Yeah.
So, and those are residentials.
And by the way, the vast majority of those homes are for 55 and older.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
That's a different kind of population than
the reason is,
population.
and I'm just going to kind of, I think, it's going to be built right next to the casino, and they're going to bus them over there.
No.
Well, no, there's a road that needs to go through the casino property to be able to get the development authorized, and so that's probably driving.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, good point. So the last number that I just want to point out here is a very significant one, which is that there's a projected need for more than 33 additional primary care providers by 2026. So that is also very significant for any potential affiliate partner. Primary care, as you know, not only is sort of everything pushing to outpatient and population health, but the reality is that most other referrals are coming from primary care. So big deal. So let's see if we can bring this home. So in terms of some of the conclusions that Steve and I see that are most relevant for the affiliation process, again, very strong market, attractive demographic, favorable payer mix, significant growth potential on the inpatient side, on the outpatient side, on the post-acute side. An opportunity for an affiliate partner to maintain and or capture additional out-migration from this service area, and most notably for the benefit of your community to hopefully provide a greater proportion of services that you all could move into with a little bit more bench strength and branding and some of the other things that we've talked about. And then, the general surgery and ortho, I note that here again, just because I think those are really potential opportunities. There are things that are done quite well in other hospitals this size and communities this size, especially on the outpatient side. And then finally, the last bullet point is around financial advantage of leveraging the post-acute transfer rule, which I don't know if we need to say more about, or nope, not for tonight.
I think another thing that this doesn't reflect, which I think is going to be an issue, is transportation in general. To have to go into Seattle is going to get more and more complicated. So to try and travel, it may be more advantageous to stay local.
Good point.
You would think that, but I'm looking at the figures here, all the children seem to be going to Seattle Children's Hospital.
I think that's true, and that's been true for a long time. I don't think we have any other facility. In fact, Overlake doesn't. Most hospitals do not carry pediatric stuff. They have to send them to children. So until there's another children's hospital, and pediatrics is a whole different ballgame than adults. It's very special.
I know.
Yeah. Commissioner Pollard.
We've talked about the opportunities for expansion in the hospital, but I think this item on page 19, it says that by 2026, the PSA needs an additional 120 nursing home beds. I think that is very significant, and especially if you've already built into the community hundreds of adult family homes, or rather, not adult family homes, but senior housing.
Yes.
Those people then are going to want to stay in the community and go into nursing care. And I think we ought to make a point of showing the opportunity of using the East Campus property for the development of nursing facility because of that demand.
Yeah,
Let's not, it seems like we focus totally on the hospital, but let's focus also on the opportunity to meet this need.
You're totally right.
Great.
That's something I thought, if any larger entity has to, the most efficient way to deal with people that need a different type of care, a lesser type of care, is if you're in the same system, you can go ahead and transfer them over there without an authorization from the patient.
Yeah, this would provide
So,
for a
because
continuum
it's the same
of care.
system.
Yep.
Yeah, this would
You can't
provide
do it with other, so if you got 25 beds in swing bed, and then rather than end up with $180 a day, $3,000 per day bed.
But we have to recognize, too, that you'd have to change that zoning, and so far, King County Council has not been open to changing that zoning.
I think that that's going to be changed just because of the need.
I think it will be.
The need.
I think it'd be, we're not talking about a commercial development here.
No.
I think a nursing home would sail through the King County Council. But apart from that, I'm just focusing on here, a continuum of care that starts in the hospital, maybe even in the emergency room, then goes to swing bed, then goes to perhaps a nursing facility. We only have one skilled nursing facility in this whole area, and that's Regency North Bend. And they have, I don't know how many beds they have, but it's a small facility. 80 beds. Okay, here we're gonna need. Yeah, and that's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and they might even be the ones that could consider expanding over there, or under contract or whatever. But at any rate, I just want us to not to restrict ourselves to the opportunities with the hospital, but for this continuum of care.
Yeah, and I would go further upstream than you just did to the primary care. So it's really all along that continuum.
Yeah, the other thing I think that we're also forgetting, the rural areas, we have many elderlies there that are needing housing if they do get into the position where they need hospice care. So I think that expansion to our, hopefully, the growth management will release that East Campus would be a good site for a hospice care, which would also bring in, the Medicare reimbursement. So that's one of the areas I thought might be very productive.
What's next?
Good, lots of good opportunities. So you guys ready to take a quick look at what we're looking at in terms of the outline for the RFP?
Yes, I believe we are. Are we, commissioners, ready to move on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So in the interest of time, I'm going to take this, and when we get to the section on the transaction, if there are specific questions, I'll probably punt them to Steve. So basically what we are looking at in terms of the flow of all of this is to start with a kind of a background section that describes Snoqualmie Valley Hospital and the clinics, the district, talks about your mission, vision, values, translates some of what we've just walked through into what makes this an attractive opportunity. And we would actually not only be looking at what we've just walked through, but a lot of the things actually that Scott pointed out at our first meeting here about what's happening internally and all the great things that that happen here internally. And then also in this section, we would be just right up front clearly articulating your guiding principles and goals. So that's the first chunk.
Sarah, from my conversations with you, Section 1C is going to be fairly extensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the second chunk is the RFP requirements. And this is broken out into three subsections here, A, B, and C. 4 and D. So Section A is really asking the respondent to, having read through the background and understanding a little bit about the organization and what makes this a great opportunity, to describe what's their vision for this place. So give them a little bit of a kind of a greenfield opportunity to just describe what they would envision in response to some of that. The second section gets a lot more, asks for a lot more detailed information about their organization. So their history, their mission, vision, values, their financial position, clinical integration, what's their track record with physician recruitment and retention, what is their administrative service function look like, and how might that actually benefit you all. So there's a number of different things there that we are asking about their organization, and in almost every section, we're also going to be asking, and what does that mean for us if we were to choose you? I want to point your attention down 3 bullet points up. This is something that came up in our discussions, I think when we were talking about, I don't remember which discussion, but one of the work study sessions recently, asking them to tell us a little bit about operating gains at hospitals that have recently affiliated with them, if applicable. If it's an independent organization, they may not have that to report, but we'd like to know what their track record is. And then also understanding with healthcare reform and now a new version of it, what path have they been on, and where would they see taking this organization. So that's kind of the first two subsections of the RFP requirements. The third section is around the transaction, excuse me. And here, this is really a section that Steve's been working very closely with. And the first is to communicate some of those provisions that we walked through last time and that you all sort of prioritized, and to try to sort of bucket those in two categories. What are the provisions that really are kind of must-haves? And then what are the, sort of next list of nice-to-haves, or we'd really prefer. And so that's the first piece. The second piece is about the proposed transaction structure. So again, kind of framing that we're open to hearing a number of different structures. Joan, I know this is an important piece that you've communicated, is to not sort of pigeonhole anyone. But to talk about, okay, lease versus purchase, and, tell us about what that might look like, and, discuss some of the caveats that would need to be inside of each of those arrangements as it relates to the meeting the debt obligations of the district. And then what financial commitments there might be. So when smaller organizations become part of a larger system, there are often assessments that you have to pay to be part of the system. So it's, you don't get all the bells and whistles just by being a good citizen. And so understanding what some of those financial commitments would look like. And then their proposed governance and management structure with an affiliation like this, and as well as medical staff structure. Kind of how would the medical staff structure, what would they envision, how would they envision organizing that, and how would it anchor to their existing structure. And then finally, what's their understanding of how quickly they might be able to move through the transaction process and get to a definitive agreement. So I'll just get through this last section and then see what questions come, and we'll look to Steve to answer about the last section. So section D here is just other information, kind of miscellaneous things that we need from them in terms of contact information, references. This is also where we would anticipate some of the legal considerations and things that might need to be in there as by virtue of the fact that you're a public hospital district. So that's sort of the meat of the RFP response that we would be looking for, and sort of how it parses out. And then the last segment here is the criteria, and that's what we'll be spending some time doing at your upcoming work study session, is to really have you respond. We'll draft up some criteria based on all the work we've done together thus far, and get that clarified. But we want respondents to know right up front, this is how you all will be evaluating their responses. Questions? And we're going to meet with hopefully every one of you individually, certainly everyone who's interested in doing it, so that we can really get into some of the flesh on the bones here.
Any commissioners have any questions that they want to address? Commissioner Pollard.
This item, RFP requirements, item B, section B, partner overview, where we're asking them to reveal their financial position and medical staff structure, decision-making processes, operating gains, etc. There's a line between public information and private information, and I'm concerned that as a public hospital district, subject to the laws of the state of Washington, we have many requirements under the Open Public Meetings Act, the Public Records Act, and these kinds of things. And I'm worried that some of those respondents may not want to share that information unless we can protect it somehow legally. And I'm just concerned about that. Now, we don't have our attorney here to advise on that, and at some point we're going to need to bring in an attorney to discuss this. But how have you handled this in the past as far as confidentiality of this kind of information versus the public's need to know and our need to know?
Did you want to go?
Well, you've got the experience with it. I'll just mention, you bring up a good point, one that the three of us talked about today, and that is legal review of the RFP is going to be part of the process. And we will probably look for somebody who has had some experience with these kinds of transactions, this kind of process specific to public hospital districts. So you bring up a good point, and we've been talking about how to address exactly that, Commissioner Pollard.
However, if I understand correctly, all hospitals have to publish their financials.
So I was going to go there next. So in terms of their financials, that would be information that you could get.
With this public information.
Right. Some of it's public information. Some of it's information that you could get from their website, you know, their mission, their heritage, those kinds of things. You know, I think in terms of some of these other pieces, the nice thing is we're not asking them to reveal, you know, their top 3 strategies and that they've been coveting and haven't been publishing as part of their strategic plan. Things like medical staff structure, you know, those aren't necessarily trade secrets. However, I think your point is well taken, and one of the reasons that Steve and I are very eager to be able to have access to legal counsel in short order, because we want to make sure that before this RFP goes out the door, we really understand how we're going to be handling all that information. And we'll be able to answer questions because we're going to be getting them from respondents.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Ready to move on.
Okay. Last but not least, the public hearing, Tuesday after Memorial Day. So this is what we are thinking about. Would be to provide an update to the community, a brief update. So, you know, a small number of slides or some packet of information that we could walk through just to kind of share the process, what's happening, where we are in the process, and then the public hearing portion would be around, we would share as part of the update the principles and goals you all have come up with, and hear what's important to the community. Did you all get this right? Is this what's important to you? This is what, you know, this is what your commissioners have come up with in terms of what's important in this process, and hearing from the community if that's resonating with them, if there are other things that perhaps you hadn't conceived of. And that would be great information to have also pre-RFP. So, how does that sound?
It sounds really good, and I'd like to have that May 30th meeting at a place that is a little larger or somewhat different type of place than the hospital itself. I would like it more centrally located, whether it be in Fall City or Snoqualmie, and so that I'd like to see the public have an opportunity to voice their concerns, and I want to make sure that we do get a lot of information out to the paper, to publish this meeting and maybe even do an article or something like that for this. It's a very important meeting for the public.
We
so.
have reserved City Hall at Snoqualmie's
Okay.
City Hall. Also, I spoke with folks at the newspaper this week about this,
Okay.
and we'll be running ads in the 2 next Valley Record, in print and digital. We'll also include the same ad copy for use by the the
Living Snoqualmie.
thank you, Commissioner Pollard, Living Snoqualmie.
The blog.
The blog, which has a very good readership as well.
Maybe we could even get Scott to put some information on his little private Facebook, is it? All right.
And also
Yeah.
maybe the Snoqualmie SROA newsletter.
That's a great idea. We'll also be, I'm a member of the Yahoo user groups for Falls City, North Bend, and Snoqualmie, and I'll be putting that text on those groups as well.
And even Facebook, if you know.
Great idea, Joan, thank you.
And I can do Preston, the Preston Community Club, which has both Mitchell Hill, Upper and Lower Preston,
Yeah.
Okay.
About the Facebook as well.
and also High Point. Yeah, Facebook too. That's true.
That would be
It'll be on our website and our Facebook page.
Yeah, oh, good, thank you.
And
Madam
also,
President,
yes, Commissioner
I'd like
Pollard.
to ask, how many public hearings are you planning in this entire process? This is one public hearing, and I've been told there will be others. Is that correct?
We had contemplated at least 2, the other one coming in later in the process when we're taking a look at specific proposals.
Well, you know, we get complaints that we're too Snoqualmie-centric. And I'm very concerned that if we hold one meeting in City Hall, that criticism is going to come again. And I feel that we should hold public hearings also in Fall City and in Carnation. If we only get 6 people at each, that's about what we have here tonight. And it's a very inexpensive way to talk about the hospital as well as the affiliation process. So I'd like to see us hold a public hearing in each of these areas. Continuing, I don't know how to translate what you've given us here into a public hearing.
Can we go to that timeline slide? Oh, you have it up, I'm sorry. So here's where the detail is. So first of all, this is not, I think maybe this is separate from the public hearing. This is just the landing on the timeline, which is where we try to land each time to make sure you know where we are now and what we're doing next. So, and where we are now is here, and we're discussing the public hearing, and then later on we will be taking those public hearing comments into consideration.
And what will be the content of the public hearing?
So the content of the public hearing would be an update, a skinny down update of the process, where we are in the process, the RFP development, and then an articulation of the principles and goals. And then the public hearing would be asking the community, taking a look at these principles and goals. Did we get this right? What else is on your mind that's important that we might not have thought of?
One comment about the public meeting, I think it's really important, but we have been doing transparent public meetings with respect to affiliation since our strategic planning session. If not before that, we've been talking about it for years.
Right.
And it's not something new, it's not something that's gone on behind closed doors. It's been very open and publicly announced in several meetings, and this is probably, we've had principally 4 or 5 meetings that address this particular topic in almost totality. and it can be viewed on our website. People can get copies. I mean, it's not like we're not trying to be transparent and try to get people interested in what we're doing.
And that can be part of the update too of, you know, oh, by the way, if you're wanting to track on this a little bit more closely, you know, here's where you can go to learn more. So I think your point is well taken, and I think at a minimum, the second hearing could be conceivably in a different one of these locations. I think I'm gonna leave it to the admin team and any further, you know, board discussion.
On the 24th, as part of the RFP discussion, Mr. Superintendent, would that be appropriate?
Well, our topic on the 24th is going to be talking about affiliation, and so if you'd like to further discuss it, that's fine. I really do like the idea of having our second public hearing when we have our proposals in at a different venue.
Yeah. Well, I think Mr. Spiker's point is well taken, but remember, we have nearly 50,000 people in the district, and the number of people who've actually come to our meetings and accessed our transparency are very, very few. Right. And so I'd like to do a little preventive maintenance in this area too, by up front making sure they're informed, so we don't hear the complaints later that they weren't informed.
Well, that's the unfortunate thing, is that the people that you know, you should invite them. That's why I invite several people today. I think we need to make an effort to reach out to those people that we know that are constantly bringing up, you know, maybe their constructive criticism. They should be invited rather than always having to do it on print. We'd like to hear from them personally, which is really unfortunate because all of this efforts that we've been putting out, advertising our open public meetings, it's left to deaf ears, but rather they would, you know, go behind printing and not appearing personally here, which is so unfortunate. We'd like to hear from them, you know, personally verbalizing their issues.
I think personal invitations for the public hearing especially would be an awesome idea.
Yeah, so anyway, that's my comment.
We have a list of over 500 emails of people who have wanted to be informed about things about the hospital along the, you know, it's through the marketing department, but we would definitely be able to do some email blast as well.
Yeah, and invite, you know, make even a phone call, perhaps, you know, give them a little attention. Please come. We really need to hear your feedback, your input. We want your presence there.
We're knocking on doors, literally. I mean, what more can you ask of us to try and connect with the public?
To come here,
so
make their presence.
You know, I don't see another argument from people who are pessimistic about our transparency.
Okay,
Make their
are we
presence
ready
known.
to move on? Okay, what's next?
We're done.
You're done?
We're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we talked about public hearings. Again, we have a second time for public comment. If there's anybody that would like to make a public comment, now would be the last time that we offer you to do this, and you're limited to 3 minutes. Okay, we're not having any takers, so is there any new business that we need to have action on?
No action.
Hearing none, then
I make a motion to.
Wait.
Oh.
Is there an other? My other is just, I was just going to read.
Sorry, you did the public comment.
Yeah, no.
No new business, now we have other.
So what would be other?
Is there other?
Well, that's where you ask others if they had any.
Yeah, does anybody else have anything pressing? Okay. Next scheduled meeting.
I know the medical committee would like to have a working session on credentialing. So that would be something that will be scheduled.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
It will be on there. I just thought I wanted to share.
Okay,
We'll try to
okay,
get it.
thank you. All right. If there's nothing else, work study session, May 24th, 6 p.m., this room. Next regular meeting will be June 8th, 2017 at 6:30, again in this conference room. So public hearing date, May 30th. We have our first public hearing is May 30th.
At the City Hall.
City Hall, Snoqualmie Valley City Hall. City of Snoqualmie.
Invite friends and neighbors to show up. I'm not going to.
Are we ready to adjourn?
Before the next regular meeting, there'll be
Yes.
a meeting of the Finance Committee. Should that be on here as well?
No, it's,
I would think it'd be a good idea to put
It's
that
on the
on
calendar.
this list.
May 30th,
Yeah, it's the same day.
yeah, same time, usual.
I'll have to come back early from my,
Don't say.
I usually stay until the day after, but that'll be fine.
So it's,
Poor baby.
it's the same day as the public hearing. Is that
Yes,
correct, David?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. I move adjournment.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Oh, any noes? Unanimous. I have it.
Thank you.